Good morning, Mr. Suarez. How are
Good,
you today?
good morning, Steve. Again, I was supposed to try to do the introduction and and didn't start off with the introduction. Apparently, I did delete it.
Don't worry about it. Good morning. How are you doing today, sir? Welcome to Divine Ministry on
Thank you.
Wednesdays at
Thank you very much. Divine Justice Ministry, our show, Divine Justice, where we try to talk about the crossroads between the civil rights and divine rights. I think that's the best way of describing it, right? Between
hmm
the civil law and divine law or human rights law. So that we try to explain those topics. And if those of you are interested in seeing all the past shows, with a lot of interesting shows, you can go back, you can go to Divine Justice Ministries .com, as you see there, for lectures, seminars, etc. So today, Steve, I thought that we would talk about two topics. One, I'd like to discuss about a concept I'm working on. I'm working on preparing a lecture series on the concept of consciousness. All right, so let's add that to the scene, consciousness. And why I discuss this is because um, in my religious experience, right?
Okay.
I absolutely totally believe that God exists. Now, the way everyone worships God is different in the world. We have thousands of Christian types, Christian religions. We have other thousands of religions that are not Christian at all, Muslims and Hindus and Jewish and a bunch of religions all over the world, all of which Zoran, I mean, go on. Uh, all of which believe in God, but they live different ways of God. Now, since I think that there's only one God, by definition, there could be only one God. Otherwise, what you have is what's called demigods, half gods. So the one God that I believe in is God of all power, all creator of all things. Right. So now, if you call him God, and I call him Jesús, o otro lo llama Muhammad, o otro
Yahweh.
lo llama otro Jehovah, Yahweh, you know, it's just a title that you're putting to the entity that is God, right? So if you start off with it, and I start off with that there is this entity, this thing that is greater than me, that is greater than humanity, the creator of all things. Now,
Mhm.
that being said, how you do what you call him and how you want to worship this thing, right, which I call God, um, is different. And now you have your way, and it makes you happy. Terrific. If that gives you peace of mind, which is what I think God wants us to be in the question of peace and peace of mind and in love. If that however you're doing it, that gets you there, wonderful. Then that's good for you. And so therefore there is no quote unquote right way of talking to God. You have your way of talking to God. So now there are different religions obviously think differently. That's why you have religions. If you don't do it my way, then you're expelled. You can't go to heaven. You can't be saved. You're going to hell. I mean, all sorts of stuff that these people make up in order to justify why my religion is the right religion and the only way that you can reach God. All right. So that's why you have religions. I discard all of that. All right. I discard all. I go directly to a relationship, a direct relationship with the Creator. Now,
Amen.
out being that said, having said that, how does that really work? Now, I think that if God, my definition of God is a creator, he created math. He created physics. He created biology. We did not discover algebra. I mean, we did not make algebra, we discovered it. We did not make calculus, we discovered it. We did not make the quantum and atoms, we are discovering. What we are doing as humans is discovering the marvel, the miracles that God the Creator made. Now, He put them there. So if we are able to develop them, discover them, and then take its natural progression, then I think that we're called upon to do that. I think that God created us, when you say His image, right? Using the Bible as a metaphor, as we were discussing earlier off the record, God created us in His image. God wasn't a man. God is not a woman. God doesn't have a beard. Okay, He doesn't have muscles. He's a spirit. And so where are we in? If we are His image, where is that spirit? Where is it? Where is the spirit? What the Bible talks about, and I often use the Bible, Steve, in my color, is because I like to use the Bible as a metaphor to explain what people 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago started writing. They didn't have the word rocket. They didn't have the word DNA. They didn't have the words that today we use to explain things. What they did have was whatever words they had at that time. So they used words at that time. They put it on a piece of paper and created a whole bunch of books. Some people got together, put the books together, and we have a biblioteca, right? The biblioteca, the Bible, of different books put together over the centuries to try to explain human nature. I think you doing off the record, you told us it's a guide, right? A guidebook when you buy a
Basic,
car.
I call it Bible is basic instruction before leaving Earth, the hand manual that God gave us. Okay, so the Old Testament is the people that God guided,
Right.
okay, in the cloud, and then the New Testament is the people that walked with Jesus, and so those are the stories
Right.
that they lived and they experienced
Right.
physically
Right.
in those times.
Right.
But
So that's
continue.
what I'm saying, that they use words to tell stories and had to try to explain human nature through the stories. Now, some of the things, for example, in the Exodus, right? Some of those things we can document that actually did happen, but they didn't happen whether Moses existed or didn't exist. We don't have any real evidence of that kind of stuff. And so the question to me is, I don't want to get into that with people, whether the Bible is historically correct, whether Jesus existed or did not exist. That doesn't make a difference. It doesn't change me for my relationship with God, the Creator. So don't I will I when I discuss these type of things with materialists or people who are scientists or people who are atheists, I don't let them bog me down trying to prove that the Bible was actually correct, that the earth was created 6,000 years ago when we have evidence we've been here for billions of years. See, I don't let them pin me into that corner, because that's what they're trying to do, to use the Bible as an actual historical document or scientific document. And this never was meant to be that way, in my opinion. All right. The Bible was a guide, a way to guide you through life, so you know how to behave, so you don't kill, you don't covet thy your neighbor's wife. Exactly. You got a guide. So in the Bible, in Genesis, it talks about the creation of man. And the Bible says that God took from the dust, right, and made earth, from the earth, and made man. Now, I don't believe that's actually what happened. I believe that is a metaphor for the fact that what is being explained is that from the earth, the article with mud, which carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, the different elements that make up earth, we are made. And that is exactly what happens in science. We know that our body, that our cells are all just molecules put together.
Yes.
So this body of which I possess, of which I'm in, is nothing but the same thing as the mud, as the dirt of the earth. So that
Amen.
explains to me why Genesis was trying to explain that we have molecules, that we have atoms, and we're put together. All right. So that's why I can correlate science with faith.
And may I add,
Right? Go ahead.
perfectly made.
Uh,
Perfectly.
So
Continue.
So yeah, no, we're gonna do a whole show what is perfect, because how the body works is a marvel. How the body, it's just some crazy.
Amazing.
So the Bible then goes on to say that that was not God didn't just make the mud and made a body. He blew, right, aliento. He blew the spirit of God. Now here we go. God is not a man. God is not a woman. God is not doesn't have a beard. God doesn't have muscles. God is spirit. There is no definition for what God looks like or what is God. Thus, we know that is spirit came from that. Now, looking at our body, looking at our body, if we are material, we're atoms, molecules, then where is spirit? Where is the spirit of man? My contention, and which I hope to be able to do in a future show, okay, is put together a workshop on trying to get to where that spirit might reside. And it resides, in my opinion, in the consciousness, in the connection of the consciousness that we have with the Creator, that we have a direct consciousness, create contact with the Creator. Now, we're going to do this by an examination of actually how the brain, the neurons. I will show MRI scans of how the neuron, because we could tell, because we have MRI CAT scans, right? Scans of when you look at a number, what portion of the brain pops is being used. When you're speaking, and what portion of the brain. When you're happy, what portion of the brain. We can tell through modern science what portions of the brain are working when you are adding, looking at something. We know what portions of brain and how the brain works. We have neurons, and the neurons connect to each other with chemicals, and so we can explain this thing. But you know what is not explainable? That when
What?
you look at a rose, for example, you could see it, define, okay, that's a rose, and then a rose, you will communicate, that area that sees the image of the rose will communicate with that area of the brain, the speech, and says rose. Okay?
Gotcha.
But it does not anywhere explain how the smell of a rose or the smell of an apple. There is no place in the brain that we can see that. All right? There's nowhere in the brain can we explain the concept of love. Where does that come from? All right?
God is love.
So what happens is that I start looking deeper, and I've done a lot of researching into how the brain works, the neurons work, and there's something called microtubules, and the work of Dr. Roger Penrose and Dr. Stuart Hameroff, both scientists, one's in physics, one's in biology, and they have been working on this concept of how the brain, through its neurons, have a connection, like a neural connection outside the brain. And that can explain some of the out-of-body experiences that people have, et cetera, like that, So I want to be able to connect this and talk about that in a future workshop when I get time to work on this concept. But that's what I want to talk about, that, and I'm hoping that we can attract some people to that concept.
Well, based on what you're saying, okay, I did a little digging myself. You know what I mean? I like to start trouble. Awareness, nothing, yourself or surroundings. For example, seeing a red apple, okay, right, or feeling pain, okay. Self-consciousness, recognizing yourself as an individual with your own identity, memories, and goals. You know, there's another word here that is kind of metagonism. Okay.
Metabolism. Metabolism.
Yes. Metabolism. Being aware of your own thinking, such as realizing you are confused or confident. And it continues to go and go and go.
Definitions of consciousness. Yeah.
Definitions of consciousness. But going to your way of approaching this, and taking and understanding how the body works, the perfect machine created by God, and understanding that God is like you said, it doesn't have a beard. It doesn't measure 6 foot. He don't have muscles, but um, we are created in His image,
Mhm.
according to what the Bible says.
Right.
I believe blindfolded on the Bible.
Mm.
Okay, um, because not only because of what it says, because the history that it has, and the fact that it's been archaeologically proven, okay, that the things that have happened that are in the Bible have happened. The fact that the Bible predicts what's going to happen in the future, and the things that have happened in the past. That's why I call it basic instruction before leaving Earth. The fact that the body that you have in this illustration is a perfect machine made only by God. Like you said, from a clay, God blowing his divine breath into this clay figure that he made with his own hands.
Mm.
And the fact that when we are born, that's a joke, but
Yeah.
it's I find it amazing. I find it very interesting. So so you're getting into a subject that I like, that I believe, um, like you said, God is a spirit. We are made in His image, so that means we are spirit, soul, and body. Right? The spirit lives within us.
Mhm.
Okay, and it lives within our body, in this perfect body that God created. The soul and the mind, and all that that entails what a human being is. I find it amazing. I think it's great. I think that we are touching this subject, and I'm happy that we are touching the subject, because it people don't address it. People
Yeah,
don't address it.
and I want to make clear to people. I am not against any religion.
Oh,
I
neither
just
am
don't
I.
follow those religions because I don't perceive. I don't need that. I don't need, for example, in the case you just gave him, the basic book for
Basic instruction before
basic
leaving Earth.
instructions for living before leaving Earth.
Hmm.
When you buy a car, you mentioned you buy a car, you get the manual. You
You
buy
get
a
the manual.
refrigerator, you get a manual. Those are basics. But when something happens with the internal mechanism of the motors, you go to a mechanic who's an expert, right? And that
Yeah.
mechanic is going to then go into and decide. He's not going to go to the bank. He knows that this wire has to be connected to this thing. But when the motor's not whizzing, he needs to look at it and turn it and look at it and turn it to solve the problem. He just can't use the original manual. So while I believe that the Bible is a good initial manual that you might take to guide you in certain principles, like thou shalt not kill and thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, but those are good rules. That's not God. That's not a search for God. That's just I want to be a good person. How can I stay to be a good person? But I don't need the Bible, in my case, for salvation. I was born saved because I was born God, in my opinion. God made us perfectly. God gave us the ability to strive. Our job is to continue to strive forward to fulfill the manifestation and purposes that God put you on this earth. Now, everyone has different ways to get to that point, and I'm with you. If you want to believe that the Bible is the way to do it, and you want to kill your first son Isaac and stab him because okay, go ahead. But there's going to be some civil laws that may stop you there.
Yeah,
But
but that's a different subject.
no, no, yeah, I'm telling you, we're gonna get into if you start taking the Bible literally, then you're gonna find yourself in big trouble, in my opinion. Taking the
Okay.
Bible literally. So I rather use the Bible as a metaphor to get to the same point, right? Because the whole point is to believe that there is a God and that you depend on that God to have that conversation, that connection with Him. That's the real point of religion. It's supposed to be. Not that if I take this piece of bread and I do this and I got this and I did 20 prayers, okay, now I'm good. I can go back and steal again. All I have to do is do the prayers. I'll be forgiven. I don't have to change who I am, what I've done. I'll just keep doing the same thing. We've seen that over the centuries of where
Yeah.
people name God, have killed people, have done murdered, and they just go back to doing, which is why Jesus came in the first place. Why? Because he went into the temple and says, no, 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 this is not, you don't follow. You can't just sacrifice a bird and say you're forgiven and then go back and start cheating your customers. That's not the way. You have to change your way. It's inside. Right? That's why Jesus came in the first place, to tell you to forget about the laws and the rules. That's not what gets you salvation. You have to find it's born inside. So that's what Jesus gave. So what I'm saying to you, and I say to all the people who are listening, whatever makes you at peace with God, and you'll know you're at peace with God if you are in love with yourself and you're in love with others. If you got hate in your heart and you got envy in your heart and you got other negative things, you're not with God. Okay, you gotta work on that. So however you do it, terrific. As long as it actually gets you there and doesn't make you dependent. You know what I'm saying? Because if all of a sudden I say to you, Steve, you're with God, but you have to discuss with me, your tukura, your counselor. You have to discuss it with me in order to get salvation, to make sure you're always in the rack. And by the way, 10% of your earnings have to come this way. Okay, so if that's the kind of religion you have and faith in God, you're depending on me to give you salvation. You're depending on me to give you the word. When you have the absolute right and absolute ability to communicate with God directly, you direct.
Amen.
Okay, so I say that's what I tell my friends out there who are religious.
This is what I see. There's different offerings in the temple in the times of Christ. You had burnt offerings, you had sacrifice offerings, you had Isaac almost, and it was a test. Okay,
Right.
according to my belief, the Isaac situation was a test to test the faith,
Uh,
to test the faith. The Jonah, okay, the Josh, not the Jonah and I cannot believe this. I'm forgetting the names.
listen, think carefully, okay? Because for every example you're going to give me, I'm going to tell you. Explain to me why when the Israelites were looking for their home, and they come upon villages. They sent in I forgot his name at the moment. It'll come to me. But he went in and killed killed everybody, including children, inside these cities. I mean, pretty
Are you talking about
barbaric stuff.
Sodom, Gomorrah?
Say
Sodom
again?
and Gomorrah? Are you talking
Yeah,
about
no,
Sodom?
not beside Adam and Gomorrah, because we can get into that as well. But the trumpet, Gideon's trumpet, that knocked down the wall, and he sent in jo-
He
it's
walked
one,
around seven
yeah, they went around,
times.
yeah, yeah. It'll come to me. I apologize for not
I
having that,
understand. It
but
happens to me.
there in the Bible, there's many inconsistencies, and again, I will not allow myself to be dragged into a question of whether God exists or doesn't exist, because the Bible is incorrect. The Bible is a document that was written by men of faith that believed and was trying to give us a way to reach to God, to understand God with the language and terminology of that time. But that time
I
has changed, and now we need to use new words.
well, I think that the Bible, and this is my opinion, it
Hmm.
doesn't. I don't agree with what you're saying.
Okay.
Ah, with all due respect.
Well, of course.
Okay. I agree that the Bible was written, okay, and factual, okay, incidents, and they were written by scribes, okay, years after, okay, to tell the story, okay, that they lived and how they lived it. Now, when Jesus came, he was the ultimate sacrifice. he came and criticized the establishment. Okay, when he turned the tables in the temple. Remember, there was no malls at that time. There was not the Florida Mall. There was not, Checkers. There was not Burger King. Okay, so everything was done in the temple. People travel from all over the Middle East to go to the temple to celebrate those days. The passing
By the way,
sacrifices.
of course, you're talking about the Jewish people, because
Yes,
the
yes.
Gentiles would not be going to the temple to go
No,
shopping.
of course,
Okay.
and that's another thing. That's
Mhm.
another thing. So the Jews, okay, thought because they were chosen, even though they were not reading, because they are chosen. They were chosen. That's what, he comes from the line of David. Okay? Jesus comes from the line of David. So when the Bible speaks and tells these things, what people call stories, okay, it's actual events that happen, as far as I'm concerned.
As
There's
far as you're concerned,
archaeology.
okay.
There's archaeology,
Right.
okay, that backs up that information. There is carriages underneath the Red Sea today that they have found.
Yeah.
They are full of barnacles, okay, but you can see the spokes. You can see everything. There is a garden of Yosemite, okay. There is a tomb. There is all
But
these.
there is a Jerusalem, and there was
there is
and of course, and there was Babylon. All these places existed. The Bible, when it talks about Babylon, you can't say, "Oh, see, the Bible is true because Babylon existed. The Bible is true because Jerusalem existed." No, I mean, we know that the Bible was used as a place, and the stories as a place it could be, but doesn't prove the underlying factual. For example, on the question of whether Jesus existed at all, there's actual question. There's no historical evidence that Jesus existed, and there were historians called Josephus happened to have been a Jew, and Josephus doesn't have any recording of Jesus.
Okay, so then explain to me the Shroud of Turin, okay, where Jesus was wrapped according to the Jewish way of burial, okay, at the time.
Right.
And the amount of supernatural whatever happened, okay, that printed that body of Jesus, okay, after death in that tunic. Okay. I mean, that right there is a proof, because you see the blood, you see the crown, you see
you're talking the Shroud of Turin.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, but Steve, this is a perfect example. If your belief in Jesus and God depends on the Shroud of Turin,
No, it doesn't.
Well, the problem is you're now citing it as evidence of the truth of the Bible.
There is that, and the
problem is that on the evidence, scientific evidence on the Shroud of Turin, is that fabric was printed in the 1300s, 1,300 years after the death of Jesus. So there's the evidence. Scientific evidence is against the Shroud of Turin actually being authentic. So I'm saying to you, you can believe it makes you happy, good, because it gets you close to God.
God makes me happy. A piece of cloth doesn't make me happy.
But I'm telling you that, to me, it makes no difference if the Shroud of Turin exists or not exists, is factual or not factual. The fact that Jesus came as the messenger of God to give us a message, that exists.
That is factual. Okay? That is factual. And he walked and he taught by example. Okay? And let me tell you, the most amazing example, I believe, is the one where he washes the apostles' feet. Talk about act of humbleness. Okay? That you have God washing your feet. Okay? Before dinner. All right? If that's not an example of humbleness and how to do things, then I don't know what it is.
And that's what Jesus was trying to show us with that story, right? But that
Okay.
story was just showing you to be humble, and that is bringing you closer to God. So whether or not Jesus actually did that, does it make a difference? The story is the actual point of the story in the Bible is to make you humble. Okay? Not that Jesus was humble, is that he showed us that we had to be humble. That's the real
Exactly.
story and the real
Exactly.
purpose of it.
And the only way you can do that is by example.
Example. All right,
And
so
he was.
let's go ahead. I'm going to turn you because I told you we have to finish this
Oh
course,
yes, that's right.
and I
Because
want to do just introduction for the future. Okay.
go, go,
Um,
go, go. Do your
this
thing.
this story we will continue this when I finish the work up on the consciousness workshop. Okay. Then I like to talk a little bit about those people who are interested in looking at this question that we do here every equal justice of divine justice. Excuse me, divine justice. Whether is what is the difference between civil law and divine law? Laws that are created by God for humans, and laws
Reverend
that are
Dr.
created.
Anthony.
Go ahead, play it. Go ahead, play it.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was just a visual.
At the crossroads
I am
where
sorry.
religion and law converge. His profound wisdom and insight have birthed a powerful book, one that is designed to guide you through the labyrinth of rulemaking and court decisions. This book, A Compass for Our Troubled Times, has the power to restore our faith in the very foundation of our democracy. For without trust in our courts, the looming specter of anarchy darkens our horizons. Witness the clash of the Supreme Court, the embodiment of justice, with the venerable structures of faith and worship. In these trying times, Reverend Dr. Anthony Suarez's book is not just a beacon of hope. It is a lifeline that can guide us towards understanding, unity, and the preservation of our democracy. Let us embark on this journey together as we seek to restore trust, uphold justice, and reaffirm the values that make our society strong. Because when faith in our courts is lost, the very essence of democracy is at stake.
I apologize, Tony.
Okay.
I thought it was, since I saw you talking and I saw the image, I thought it was an image.
Okay.
So I went to put it there next to you, and it turned out to be a video. My bad.
Okay, no problem. You see what we're getting at. What the whole point of this podcast is about is to try to not talk religion per se. It's to talk about where religious rights, religious freedom. What is your right at work, at the workplace, at home, in school, in public? What is your right to religious freedom from other religions and for your religion, and where the courts clash? That's the purpose of the book, and that's actually the purpose of the Divine Justice Ministry. This concept of that I'm introducing in the first segment, which was about consciousness, is more deep into theology, cosmology, the reason you think certain ways. And so I'm going to explain some of that as well, and we'll be probably getting more into that. But I want to mention to people who are watching that you can go to my website, and actually you don't have to buy the book. You can buy the book if you want the whole thing, or you can go to the website and go chapter by chapter as I explain it in my own voice, all right, the book. So that's free if you just look at it on the website.
Where does we have to go to, Tony, to get that?
Yeah, you go to what's on the screen right there, www.divinejusticeministry.com. That's the website. You go into the book, and chapter by chapter, I talk about the chapter, what I was trying to explain in the chapter. So of course, some people just like to have the book in their hand. They like to do that, and so you can buy that on Amazon, but you can also get it for free on my website. Okay, if you just want to listen to it. So I want to let people know that that's available. We'll discuss it, and you can be whatever religion you are, whether you're Jewish or Muslim or Christian or whatever. This is the same, because the Constitution, the First Amendment, guarantees to us as Americans the freedom of religion, and also it prohibits the government from establishing religion. And what I mean by that, or religious practices. For example, we're going to close your business on Saturdays, and even though your Sabbath is on Saturday, or you're going to close your business on Sundays, even though your Saturday is your Sabbath. So we can this case the questions that we have covered recently in reference to whether or not you have a right to withdraw your children from school, public education, if they're teaching them something about LGBT lifestyle, and you don't want the children to hear it, right? That's a religious establishment clause. The case we spoke about, the Muslim woman that didn't want to take her picture for the
Right.
driver's license
Yeah.
and uncover her face because her religious freedom, and the clash between the government's right to have a picture on a driver's license for identification purposes and your right to cover your face by your religion. And we also cover blood transfusions, that people who don't believe in blood transfusions, and so there are all sorts of different cases. And I covered the cases of Kevorkian and when assisted suicide cases.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that wrong? So there's a lot of stuff that we will be covering in this podcast, that I cover in the book, where we're trying to explain, because as the promo video was saying, my effort is not to convert you to one religion or another. That's not my case. It's to help you understand how the courts work, because people don't understand how the courts work. They come up with, oh, how could they do that? And then they lose faith in the court system, like people lose faith in God if things don't get proven. Why am I going to think about God? Look at that. No. You go, pastor. How many times have we seen pastors or ministers go astray? Cheat, go to jail. Also, all of a sudden, man, I'm not going to believe. You're not going to believe in God because some man made a mistake. Well, how does your faith, individual faith, match up with because one person did? And the same thing comes with your individual rights. You have to understand why courts make decisions. If you understand it, even if you don't agree with it, at least you know why. And when you know why, you have faith in the system that sometimes justice will be straightened out. And I think that's my point in the book. That's my point with this Divine Justice podcast and what we're trying to accomplish. And I wanted to explain that today.
All right, Tony. Well, I understand that you have a meeting in a few minutes. So
I do have a couple of very important meetings with the president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association of Puerto Rico for up and coming for the other podcast, which is, of course,
tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So I have a meeting with them, and that's an important meeting. I have to prep for that as well. So this is a rather rigorous schedule that you and I have: a Raw Talk on Tuesdays, a Divine Justice on Wednesday, and Equal Justice on Thursdays. It's rather ambitious, takes up a lot of time. I'm hoping that we educate people, that people are spending some time looking at this. I don't want to offend anybody. Unless you want to offend me, then I'll offend you back.
Well, I understand where you're coming from, but I think that, like it's written, give to God what is God and give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. I understand that this is a broad subject and that our differences do not affect our relations.
Right.
So with that, Tony, you have to go, but we need to visit this subject again and give it more room, because an hour is not long enough.
No,
it's not long enough.
Yeah, no. In fact, I think that this workshop that I've got pieces put together is going to take several hours. So we may, I intend to do a workshop for my church and then do a talk, a 40-minute talk for the church on it. And then you and I will do a podcast of 1 hour each. So if it's a 3-hour workshop, it'll be 3-hour segments, like that.
I like it. Let's do it. Okay. Let's do it. Well,
all right, Steve.
Take it.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you all of us who are live with us and keeping track. If you want more information, go to our websites and we'll get the information. God bless you. Bye-bye.
And keep on making them comments that get Tony cranked up. I like it. God bless, Tony. Thank you very much. You good?
Yep.
That was a good